Surrogacy. I have been with Fairfax Surrogacy, and I have been a surrogate 4 times and delivered 5 beautiful babies to 3 different families.
Hello, my name is Niki and I am the surrogate support specialist here at Fairfax Surrogacy. I myself have been a surrogate. I had twins for an amazing international same-sex couple, and I have also been an egg donor and was able to donate to 3 families. Rhonda and I are here today to chat with you and answer all questions about our surrogacy program. We're going to take about 30 minutes to answer some of the questions we hear most from potential surrogates. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in our chat and we'll answer them. I'm going to start off here for you, Rhonda. Tell me, what does a surrogacy agency do?
So that's a great question, Nikki. So a surrogacy agency, we match surrogates with intended parents who are looking to build their families. We handle everything for them, from the initial screening for your surrogates to the medical screening process, review the entire transfer calendar, hold the surrogate and the intended parents' hands the entire time of the journey. We want to make sure that they're educated about the process, they're supported along the way, and they're heard, and we help them through all of those steps. The case managers are with them from the time that they're matched to transfer to the entire pregnancy. We're here at delivery, and we're even follow up with you throughout your recovery time period as well. We want to make sure that there's nothing that's popped up that you don't need extra assistance with.
100%. And on our end, you may talk to me when you are a surrogate onboarding with us. We support you in the beginning to make sure that we get your pregnancy and delivery records and chat with you about your matching preferences. That way, we present you with intended parent profiles, only of intended parents that you are comfortable matching with, which is really, really big. And then you may talk to us at the end of your journey for a postpartum delivery call just to check in on top of the case managers, make sure you have that extra support and that you're doing well, feeling great, and that kind of acclimating back to normal life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Perfect.
one of the questions that people ask too, Nikki, is
Mhm.
how long does this process take?
That's a great question. I always tell surrogates, especially in the beginning, and I know, with intended parents, the situation's a little bit different, but as a surrogate, I say to prepare anywhere from 18 to 24 months of your life doing a surrogacy journey. Between the onboarding, we're getting your records, doing background checks, creating your profile, and working on matching. And then while you're in that beginning process, and once you're matched, you have your medical screening, you go through a contract, which is a legal process before you even start those IVF medications. So typically from match to transfer, it's about, I say 4 to 5-ish months. And then, of course, 9 months pregnancy and then postpartum. So you definitely need to take that time there and prepare for it.
Absolutely. And that's very similar with the intended parent side of things as well. So it does take about 4 to 6 months for intended parents to be matched with that surrogate that has gone through our entire vetting process, which is why it does take some time. And then you don't just get matched and you're instantly going to transfer. There's so many steps along the way prior to that that we need to make sure that the surrogate is medically cleared, that it's going to be safe for her to carry this pregnancy for these intended parents. And like you said, Nikki, that legal contract as well. So that legal contract typically takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to process, because the intended parents attorney is going to draft that contract, send it to the surrogate's attorney, and it's going to keep going back and forth until there's an agreed upon contract. And then they get to the fun part where we're getting transfer calendar and
Yes.
medications and appointments, and now we're moving and grooving through that journey.
Yes, which is, I would say, the fun part.
Yes,
With
absolutely.
a bit of medication. And we'll definitely get to that.
Absolutely. Nikki, so how does a surrogate qualify to become a surrogate?
This is a great question and one that I do love to discuss. So, here, most surrogacy agencies, of course, IVF clinics, we follow something called ASRM, which is the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. So, you will hear that term a lot on your surrogacy journey. And so, what they do is establish guidelines for surrogates just to make sure that this is something that is safe for you to move forward with. So, regarding your ASRM guidelines, there's, of course, standard guidelines that we want to follow for your health. So anywhere between age 21, 42, there is a BMI requirement typically of 32% or below, no more than 2 C-sections, and of course your pregnancies need to be full term, non-complicated, healthy pregnancy and delivery, no recent tobacco use, significant alcohol use, and we definitely want to check on your mental health history, because the one thing I say is we will never, ever, ever ask a surrogate to compromise her mental health for a journey. So we'll want to make sure that you're not currently on any type of SSRIs or depression medication to do anything that may compromise your mental health.
Absolutely. So the reason our intake process is so extensive is because we care about our surrogates as well.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that you are healthy. We don't want something that's been in your history to affect your current journey, which would then affect you personally, affect your family. And we want to make sure that 100% as much as possible that you as a surrogate are able to be healthy and move forward with your journey.
Absolutely. And we've been through it, right? So that your health, your mental health, your physical health, your well-being is 100% of the utmost importance. So we want to make sure that this is something that you're safe doing. Speaking of health and medications, Rhonda, how would you say the medication is like during a journey?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, so the medications during a surrogacy pregnancy are very similar to those that are used in a normal IVF pregnancy. Um, they are meant to prepare the surrogate's uterus
Mhm,
for the embryo transfer, um, so that she can have a healthy pregnancy. So every fertility center has a different protocol for medications.
mhm,
So when you are coming to us asking what medications am I going to be on, we can't give you a definitive answer because it's going to be depend on the fertility center's requirements as well as the testing that they've done on you, because every person is different. So
mhm,
every person reacts to medications differently. You could potentially be on oral medication. You could be on vaginal suppositories. You could be on patches. You could be on injectable medications. The majority of fertility centers do use some form of all of those. If you're not on the patches, you're typically on the injectable medications, and the injectable medications do tend to be the more prevalent medication that is used
mhm.
with fertility centers. But don't let that worry you at all. They guide you through the steps, they walk you through how to do it. At the fertility center. And then, us as case managers, we meet with you as well. We make sure that you understand it. We verify that you have all the medication that it said you're supposed to have. We walk you through how to do it. We're here to hold your hand during the entire process. And being that we've been surrogates ourselves, we've been through that as well. So we know what it takes to do those medications. You are on medications for anywhere to 2 to 3 weeks prior to an embryo transfer. After embryo transfer, you could be on medications anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks after. It's going to depend on how your body is processing the medications, how the pregnancy is progressing. Will depend on how long you're on those medications for.
Yeah, I always budget 10 to 12-ish weeks
Yep.
between getting your body ready for the transfer. And typically after that second heartbeat confirmation is when they start kind of weaning you off as you're released to your OBGYN, which is the best day ever.
Yes, it's such a celebration when they finally wean off your medication and you're like, my last injection,
Oh
yay!
my gosh, it's definitely a celebration. And If you ever need assistance, I know Rhonda's done this. I've done this. Call us. I've been on many a video call with
Yes,
surrogates who are doing their shots. So anytime, you're more than welcome. That's what we're here for.
absolutely. And there's tons of videos that you can see about them as well, that are out there nowadays too.
Oh
So
yeah.
awesome. All right, Nikki, we've got a long list of questions that people have asked that are all very similar, that all start with, can I be a surrogate if? So,
All right.
can I be a surrogate if my tubes are tied?
100%. Yes. Because we do gestational surrogacy only. So there's a difference between gestational and traditional. Traditional is when the surrogate uses her own egg. We are not doing that. So when you are matched, you will have intended parents that are working with a specific IVF clinic. And at that IVF clinic will be their little embryos. And that is what will be transferred during the IVF process directly into your uterus. You have no biological genetic connection to that embryo. So 100% your tubes can be tied because we do not need to use them. So that's how I look at that. Any other comments on that one, Rhonda?
I know, I totally agree. It seems to be a big question that we hear a
Hmm.
lot because, some people don't understand that we are not a traditional surrogacy, company. We do not work with that. We
Mm-mm.
only work with gestational surrogates who are not genetically related to this child.
Absolutely. Regarding C-sections, if I've had a C-section, can I be a surrogate?
Absolutely. We can definitely work with you if you have had a C-section. If you have had 2 C-sections, that is our limit. If you've had more than 2 C-sections, we are not able to move forward with you. As Nikki mentioned, ASRM previously, that is a guideline of theirs, and we do stick with their guidelines to ensure both the safety of our surrogate as well as the safety of that baby that is potentially going to be born from this.
100%.
Just keep in mind though that when you have had a C-section, it is going to be a little bit longer in your process because we do have to make sure that the timeline between when you've had that C-section and when you go for transfer is there as well, because we want to make sure your body's had proper time to heal between that to ensure safety for everybody involved.
Mhm. Which is a clinic. It's kind of a case by case basis, dependent on the clinic, but most are a year
Yeah.
until transfer, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I
All right.
typically see between 12 and 18
Yeah.
months.
Wonderful.
Nikki, if I've
Yes.
had a miscarriage, can I be a surrogate?
This is a good question, and this is actually one that we get a lot. And it is actually more common. So miscarriages can actually be a case by case basis. So we want to make sure that you've had no more than two. However, it's going to be dependent upon when your miscarriages were and how far along you were. So if you've had two after your most recent pregnancy, we're going to need to review those records and see if this is something that you're able to move forward with. If it was in between pregnancies or before your most recent pregnancy and delivery, this is something that we'll review. This is why we do want to gather your pregnancy and delivery records as well as OBGYN clearance to make sure that it's safe for you to move forward. And our heart always goes out to anyone who's gone through a miscarriage, and we send as many hugs that we can. So we do want to make sure physically, mentally, this is something that you can move forward with.
Absolutely. And as we said before, we are very concerned regarding our surrogates' health. We want to make sure that you are safe. Um, this is not okay. You're an employee. You're this. You're that. And even if you were, we're such a good family here, for the company, that we care about each and every one of you guys, and we want to make sure that this is going to be a safe environment for you, and it's going to be a great journey for you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking about our mental health there, Rhonda, can you talk about antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication use a little bit?
Absolutely. So it really depends on the specific medications that you're on, as well as your mental health history. One thing I like to mention too is when you are completing our application, if you have been on any of that, please be honest with us because the information will come up when we are obtaining your medical records. If you're honest with us, we can give you an honest answer as to what the next steps are for you. Um, there is about a year waiting period after stopping antidepressants to make sure that you qualify, because again, want to make sure you're in that good headspace and everything is moving forward with you well and you're prepared for this journey, both physically as well as mentally. This is a big journey and it covers all aspects of you.
Absolutely. And additionally, before moving forward, all surrogates do actually meet with a licensed mental health professional, and they will also go in depth regarding medication use, the process. Again, the goal is to make sure that you know the ins and outs, what to expect during surrogacy, and that mentally and emotionally you're able to move forward with this.
Absolutely. So, Nikki, another question we get often.
Mhm.
If I'm on food stamps or government assistance, am I able to be a surrogate?
Perfect. This is a good one. So now we're going back to those ASRM guidelines, right? We need to make sure that you're financially stable. You are not moving forward with the surrogacy just for the compensation, because the compensation is something that your family or you as a person is going to need to depend on to survive, right? So typically, if you're on any form of government cash assistance, Section 8 housing, WIC, food stamps, daycare assistance, typically those are disqualifiers because you need that assistance to function, correct? Outside of that, if your children are on a Medicaid policy, we completely understand that, and that's something that we're comfortable with. If you were on Medicaid, but this is something that you might be able to get off of, again, we'll review this. It's on a case by case basis. We need to make sure that you're financially stable, that this is something that you're not dependent on essentially to thrive financially, right? And so, what we'll do during your intake call here at Fairfax Surrogacy is chat with you about your situation and say, yes, this is something that you can absolutely move forward with, or maybe we need to wait a little bit and then come back to this.
Absolutely, because we want to ensure that you understand that it is a requirement to come off of this prior to moving forward. And if that is going to be a issue or concern and cause problems with you being able to maintain your family in your household, then that's not something we want to occur. Um, Speaking with that as well, that compensation that we talked about, that is not going to be starting until you are confirmed pregnant. So we're talking at least 6 months, after you've started this process at a minimum to start the compensation. So we want to make sure that you're financially stable for your family's sake.
Yeah, 100%. While we're onboarding, we go through all these steps. Another thing that we also will discuss is your background. So anyone in the home 18 and above does need that background check. So Rhonda, tell me, if I've had maybe a surrogate or a partner that have criminal history, how do we go about that?
So that's a great question, Nikki. So we understand that people make mistakes.
Mhm,
Everyone's human, things happen. When we do our background checks, it's really going to depend on factors. So
mhm,
not everything is black and white. It's going to depend on how long ago this situation happened. It's going to depend on how severe the situation was. So obviously, if it's a felony conviction that you or your partner has had or someone else in the household, we would not be able to accept you because is just a no-go. Um, if it's something minor that had occurred, and there's no felony part of it, we could definitely work with you depending on how long ago it was and the situation behind it too.
mhm.
So when you're talking to us, again, filling out that application, be honest with us. Because if we were to find that out by doing your background check, now it's more like you were hiding something. Whereas if you share it with us ahead of time, we can get the information, we could be prepared for it. We know, okay, this is going to come up. This is the situation. We're still comfortable moving forward with you. So definitely um, do that background check on all of our surrogates. And for you surrogates out there, we do background checks on our intended parents as well.
Yes. Transparency, transparency, transparency. Yes.
Absolutely. All right, Nikki. One of the big questions we get too,
Hmm.
can I be a surrogate if I'm overweight? What does that mean?
Okay, so overweight. This is always not the funnest discussion. As part of surrogacy, we are going to match you with intended parents who are working with an IVF clinic, right? Every IVF clinic will have their own what's called your body mass index, so BMI guidelines, right? Most IVF clinics do prefer to work with a surrogate with a BMI of 32% or below, some 30, some actually a little bit less than that. So, what we'll do again is have this conversation during the intake call because we want to make sure that there's no risk to you, risk to the transfer or moving forward. As I'm not a medical professional, and we, of course, always defer to the IVF clinics and the reproductive endocrinologist, your IVF physician. We don't want you to get in a situation where we're starting at maybe a higher BMI and worrying about something like gestational diabetes or a danger to you carrying a pregnancy. So, what we'll do is we'll chat about it. I absolutely understand weight management in itself is a journey, right? It's hard, especially
Absolutely.
teleworking, working home, you're raising kids. It can be more difficult. So, we'll chat through it and make sure that we get you in a space where this is something that we can get you kind of within those guidelines, hopefully, definitely, and have that conversation, and we'll support you with that as well. But yes, there are definitely BMI guidelines.
And just so that you guys are aware as well, if you are right on that border of that 32, we are going to be doing those tough questions with asking you to give us your weigh-ins too, especially when you get into case management. We want to ensure that you're at the right BMI prior to going to your medical screening. We want to ensure that that maintains. If we know, some days you're going to have a slip or, whatnot. So that might be a rougher week, but
Mhm.
we're going to be there to support you through the good, the bad, the whole process, and be able to give you those items you need to help succeed and to make this a great journey.
Yes, that's the goal. Always.
Wonderful. Awesome. Any other questions? I don't think we've seen any questions pop up online yet.
Perfect. These were good mailing questions. I appreciate all of those who sent these in for the email. And, in the interim, if there's, of course, any questions, I always say call us, text us, email us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're here to guide you through that entire process. We will walk you through what it looks like. We're going to answer your questions as they come in. So Nikki is in our surrogacy onboarding process. So she's going to be that first person that you're going to be talking with and seeing, and she's going to just guide you through that steps.
Absolutely. And you can definitely reach out to us, info@fairfaxsurrogacy.com. Anytime that you need to, we're here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah,
And we look forward to working with you soon.
absolutely. Thank you so much.